Now, in your opinion, how well do you see the government today has been doing, or generally in all kind of sector? How well have Malaysia have been in protecting these marginalized and vulnerable groups?
I see Dr. Zulkifli is smiling because it's a highly politically loaded question. No, I think...
Intellectual discourse, never mind Malaysia.
No, I agree. I'm just joking. Look, we need a reason discourse, which means whatever we do, what we will say, we're back with facts and arguments. And in this case, for example, in Parliament, I say the same thing. 59, 60, 61, Ungku Aziz wrote, you see, and this is not jejak, rencana kemiskinan. Hussein Ali talk about social stratification, poverty and inequality in 61. But still, there is largely, again, denied and ignored. Why is that so? But my criticisms are not only the political leadership, about the intellectuals. I have a huge debate about the so-called urban elites. They talk about, of course, human rights and issues, fair. But you hardly hear them talking about urban poor and the rural poor. The fact that they do not have the opportunity to compete. You talk about justice. Where is the justice when you don't allow people to give to compete on a level playing field? You talk about meritocracy, fair. Okay, you give them equal opportunities and let them compete. How do you then compete between a school in Manik Urai and a school in Kuala Lumpur? I mean, at least the premier schools, or where I come from, Malay College Kuala Kangsar. You can't. Therefore, justice, I mean, I believe student leaders could discuss this further. What is adalah in Islam? Okay, or justice in even a Western understanding must be of fairness. You can't otherwise discuss this as just a political slogans. And that's why, to me, as student leaders, although I would say that they're welcome to join keadilan, but to my mind, what's more important is they, as student leaders, they should not have this cult personality, or this obsession with leaders until you can't question. It's just voila, whatever the leader says, you must follow. I mean, that's not the tradition of scholarship that we're talking about. So you ask me about the present regime, I would question the legitimacy in the first place. More so now, when they declared emergency, 115 members of parliament have rejected or have asked to review or asked the parliament to be convened. 115 out of 220. The majority have rejected the government rule. They have lost the majority. When a democratic government loses its majority, it's considered already illegitimate. Okay, notwithstanding that, let us look at the policies. What is the educational policy? You look, I was in Port Dickson last weekend. You talk about online learning. You talk about, for the last 1 year, buying computers or tablets for students is not forthcoming. And now they say it's on loan. So we have to raise money, ask the private sector and collect funds to buy tablets for the poor. So what's happening now in education, in health, in economy, with graduate unemployment, young graduates, 60, 70,000 just unemployed, and unemployment which has gone to 800,000 on record, I'm sure much more, then there's going to be abject poverty, increasing numbers of the poor, and growing disparity and inequality. You don't need to read Thomas Piketty to understand what inequality is, because there is enough literature, even by our scholars, talking about this. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't read Piketty. You must. I mean, I have the book here. in case somebody wants to borrow. But my point is this. When you have a crisis, pandemic, COVID-19, and as a result, economic downturn, then you must have bold programs to address this issue. You can't be talking about no tender, commissions, more ministers, more allowance for them. I mean, this is ridiculous. You don't have the habits of the heart and concern for the welfare of the people. And this, to my mind, is disturbing. So, of course, I say these are Anwar's opposition leaders, political, but you challenge these facts. Why did we oppose the Belanjawan, the budget, last year? Because they claim that the budget is COVID-19 budget. But in reality, no. They create huge political posts by the hundreds of millions of ringgit for political posts, for political positions. When people are struggling even to eat and live. You see, I'm getting angry and passionate about this subject. Why? Ungku Aziz told me since 1961 about the plight of the rural poor. And who are we to blame? And therefore, students must take up these issues. Not necessarily to be, people say of course it's political. What is an education policy if it's not political? Or health? Or COVID-19? Or you see the MCO? You change rules every day. I was on my way to Port Dickson and back, and police checkpoint. I say, apa khabar je? Everything semua okay? Dah okay Tok Seri, tapi tak tahulah rule mana nak pakai. Because hari-hari tukar rule. And there's no clarity. There's no thinking. And it's haphazard. Even in dealing with COVID-19. And there's no transparency. We asked about COVID-19. Vaccine. How much does it cost? What are the companies? What are the relative price compared to what other countries are getting? Why Indonesia is getting Sinovac? Why are not getting? No answers. Yours is not to question why, but do and die. So so this is what is to me exasperating. It's more than this, just disconcerting, because you see these very issues, and when we question, we say, well, we're on a pandemic, this is an emergency, we have to deal with it. And don't create a political problem. You can have you can go to restaurants now, you can have meetings, you can have whatever. You can't convene parliament. Does it make sense? You can do virtually everything now, although it's called emergency, but parliament cannot be on session. Why? Emergency. If students and student leaders do not appreciate these problems, I'm at a loss. Because I think we must take a position and voice out. How, what, it's up to you to decide in the present generation. Like this Undi 18. Okay, can you imagine? This was agreed by all parties. You see? Government and opposition. Oh, but there are people about 18 who are not smart enough to understand politics. I am telling you, there are people who are 60 or 70 who have no understanding of what politics is all about, who can't even recognize the symbol. Okay? Then why then you deny the younger guys the right to vote? And giving this argument they don't understand. I rest my case.